Thank you.
I'm Lillian Delpop of North Providence, and I am directing this question to all three of you. You're running for governor. You have a legislature that you know is pretty well inactive in what it should act upon and do well for the state of Rhode Island. How are you, as governor, never mind us as voters, going to work with that legislature or bring about change right now with that legislature if one of you said we've got to work with it right now to solve the problem?
Thanks for that question, Lillian. I know a little bit about the legislature because, I stood up to speakers of the houses and Senate presidents through the years. And, those guys aren't there anymore and I'm still here. I'm not afraid to stand up for what's right. When you walk through the halls of the State House, this is how you know when you're governor if you're doing a good job, right? If the guys in the legislature, they don't want to shake your hand, they look the other way and they run across the hall. Well, I've been walking down those halls for many years. And that's how I wear my badge of honor and courage walking down those halls. Because if you go along to get along up in that State House, that's not what's going to solve the problems for the state of Rhode Island, all right? But they need leadership, and they need to know what the plan is, and they need someone that can work with the process to execute the plan. And you know what? If some of those guys don't want, or gals don't want to work for the betterment of the state, that's why we have elections every 2 years, all right? And the governor has a 4-year term, the legislators have 2-year terms. And I'm not afraid to get involved in that process. So that's how we get things done. Rhode Island, as has already been said tonight, Rhode Island is a great state, and it could be a lot better. Right? We can get the state moving. I know we can. Right? And whether it's the legislature or the city or town council or anybody else, they're looking for leadership, and it needs to come out of the governor's office, and that's how we're going to get things done in the state. Thank you, Lillian.
Yes.
Thanks. I take a look back at the relationship that Tim O'Neill had with Ronald Reagan. And all day long, they would argue and call each other names. And then at 5 o'clock, they could go and have a beer and work things out. I think a leader, a governor, can be firm, can be very direct in communications with the leaders of the House and Senate, can forcefully fight for, communicate, get the people rally behind a certain position. As you all know, and maybe you don't, back to the framers of our state constitution, they just got rid of a king. And they didn't want a new king. So they limited the powers of the office of the governor in the state of Rhode Island. In fact, compared to all 50 governors, the state of Rhode Island's governor is the 3rd weakest in the country. So the governor has to form coalitions and relationships to get anything done. And my hopes are that this year in the General Assembly, we'll have enough balance in the General Assembly that we'll be able to have some power so that when the next Republican governor is elected, he'll have some allies in the General Assembly.
I think your observation is right on. I believe personally that it's very difficult for a governor who's in opposition to the Democratic majority to get much done unless we actually change the makeup of the General Assembly. That's what the moderate party has been about all along. That was the genesis of this idea. That's why I did what I did. We need to bring competition to seats. We have 40% of legislators run unopposed. What kind of legislating do you get from an incumbent who knows he or she does not have to face the music for the way that they vote? I believe that in this year, with the unsettled politics that's out there, with the voter unrest that's out there, that the ability to make the sweeping change that's necessary to change the balance of power in the legislature is at hand. And one of my jobs as running for governor is not just to get myself elected, but is to get our slate of candidates elected, from the other state officers to General Assembly, right down to the town council and school committee people. I am doing very heavy lifting for the moderate party this year because I'm trying to get all these individuals elected. It has to change. We need to get fresh blood in there. We need good, competent citizen legislators to go at it, to compete, and to get better and honest legislating out of our legislators. So my answer to you is, before even getting in office, I personally am trying to make that change happen by getting an entirely new group of people elected right now. Once in office, I believe that the channels of communication between the governor's office and the legislature need to be much bigger than they are right now. The governor's office needs to have a substantial presence in committee meetings, and there has to be constant communication between the two sides. And that's one of the big things that I would do as governor to try and get things going better. Thank you.
Hi, this could be for all of you too. How do you get rid of the entitlement mentality in the state? There's a culture of entitlement where if someone comes to your office and says, I need this, give me this, look, and they give you a sob story. You yourself, just Mr. Robitaille, you spoke about how you've lived in a tenement house and how you struggled. And that idea of being an independent person and earning self-respect rather than being somebody who's living off the state. How do you start to change around that mentality and have the courage to stand up to all of the groups screaming for more money from productive people?
That's a really good question, and you're right. I think it begins with, there's so many places where it begins. It should begin in our schools, teaching kids self-reliance, not dependence. It should also be in how we design our public policies. So that, listen, I had a daughter who was mentally ill, and she ended up taking her life. So I fought the mental health system as well. And I know there are policies, there are assistance that people do need. And especially when you come into this world developmentally disabled, either physically or mentally, we need to do even more than we're doing now. But every able-bodied person, we have to make sure that the programs policymakers design help them for a short period of time and show them a pathway to freedom and independence. We can do that from a policy perspective. But when we have programs that go on forever and ever, and we create a culture of dependency, that's wrong. Amen. And we can change the laws to help people, but to encourage them to a life of independence and self-reliance. We can do this. I know we can do it.
Your question is spot on, and it ties in with all the small businesses in our state too. I already started meeting with all these large providers of these programs that you're referencing, that all these people can participate in. And there's so much waste and so much duplication across all these agencies, especially the private agencies that have these big contracts with the state, that you want to talk about solving a lot of problems at once. First, let's get the programs that are out there that yield good results, and let's make sure those are there for the people who need the most help. But the programs that are just draining our system, the agencies out there that are getting these big checks every month and yielding no results and causing what you're calling this dependency problem in our state, we have to end that. And that's a double win for the taxpayers of Rhode Island. First, we cut money in the budget, and second, we have a set of programs in place that actually work and provide assistance for those who are most in need. Thank you.
The dependency question is a good one, and it sort of flows into the broader question of the benefits programs that we have and how they stack up against the benefit programs that our neighboring states offer. Very often, the programs that Rhode Island sponsors have benefits that are far more generous, either in terms of their duration or in terms of the sheer dollars that go out the door to individuals than our neighbors. And in the same ways that our tax policies disincent people from creating jobs in this state, to some extent, our largesse in some of these programs can sometimes lead to people coming here because the benefit programs are as rich as they are. I believe that our benefit programs need to be consistent and on a par with our neighbors. We can't afford to have richer policies. And as an example, our unemployment fund is $300 million in the hole, and yet we have one of the more generous unemployment benefits in the country. Now, we certainly need it. There's 70,000 people out of work, but with a $300 million hole in that program, which, by the way, should be added to our deficit, and nobody talks about the fact we have to repay these dollars. We have to get in line with where we go. I've done a lot of work. I'm a computer guy, and back in the 90s, I helped the state of Texas put together the first welfare debit card system in the country. We stopped $1 billion worth of fraud when we put that system in. And I'm certain that with the application of technology, we can do a lot and see that there's a lot going on here in the state where we can recover money that's being improperly sent out the door. We need to do that. We need to get a handle on the entire welfare end of it. It's important. If people need the help, we need to give it to them, but we have to make sure that we do so in a way that's consistent with what our neighbors are doing for us. Thank you.